I think that the Celtics have a troll game, and I think that Jalen Brunson has a game that he takes over. So I had the Celtics troll game in game 3 or 4. Well, it happened to be in game 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Ben Kruse. This is another edition of Moving the Goalpost. You can follow us across social media at MTGP You can follow Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart. You can follow Ben on Twitter at BenCruz144. You can watch all Empty the Bench shows on YouTube.com/ETB Network. You can listen to all Empty the Bench shows on ETBpodcast.com. And you can listen to Moving the Goalpost wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to like and subscribe. And this show, Moving the Goalpost, is presented by Playback. Stay tuned for later in the show to find out more. All right. So we do have to talk about the number one story. The Knicks coming back to beat Boston. So this means I had to have Ben on as a guest this week. I just didn't have any other options other than to have a Celtics fan. If you watch the live stream, I've never really been quite that happy before for anything sports related because I didn't expect the Knicks to win. I still don't even expect the Knicks to win the series.
Right.
But that was just amazing. It was amazing on both ends. It was amazing how, when the Knicks came back to beat the Pistons in game 1, I thought a lot of it was kind of just the Pistons collapsing.
Right.
But in this case, I think it was both. I think it was the Celtics collapsed and the Knicks played amazing. And the only way a comeback like that could have happened is for both of those things to take place, is how I would put it. Knicks fans are going to be hyper-focused on how well we played. Celtics fans are going to be hyper-focused on how bad they played. In reality, I would say both those things are true. And I will also say, it's not even like the Knicks managed to win that game. Worth noting, by the way, the Knicks are undefeated as we record this. By the time the show comes out, it probably won't be the case anymore. That the Knicks actually are currently undefeated on the road in the playoffs, which is mostly a product of them playing Detroit. That's mostly just what it was. And they also are only 1-2. They're only 33% at home. So that also is the case. But yeah, mostly a product of them playing Detroit. But here's the thing. The Knicks are now, assuming Boston takes game 2, we're 1-1 going into playing 2 home games in a row. I'm not saying it's a guarantee the Knicks are going to win those home games because they didn't win a whole bunch of home games against the Pistons. But it is worth noting that does put the Knicks in a very good position if you're tied at 1-1 going into the 2 games in a row at the Garden instead of the Garden. So that's generally just my takeaway, my broad scale takeaway. We'll get into the specifics of the game also, but I do want to get your reaction first. I do want to get I want to get the losing side involved too, which, by the way, I'm not used to this. And neither are you, because, Boston sports fans are the Goliath and the New York sports fans are like David. So you're usually Goliath on these podcasts and I'm usually David, but that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I can go on for a good old hour if I really wanted to.
Well, we have an hour on the podcast, so we can.
Well, I'll kind of shorten as much as I can because really, pretty much there was a dark cloud in the back of my brain the whole entire time at work, and it was all about the game, and I really wanted to just come on here. Literally, that's all I wanted to do today, and just kind of get it all off my chest. It was a gut punch. I will say, Nick, I didn't think that we played great for at least the first couple quarters, but to be fair, I don't think that the Knicks played great either the first couple quarters. The Knicks missed a ton of free throws. We decided to hack a Shaq Mitchell Robinson for a lot of that first half, and it worked in our favor. But I thought that outside of 2 stretches for the Celtics, I thought that they didn't really play their brand of basketball. And I know I can make excuses here and there. Of course, there were obviously awful lot longer than the Knicks were. But it didn't seem like, and I'll obviously talk about the collapse and stuff like that. But I just thought that, really from the jump, I mean, Tatum obviously had some threes that kind of started, but and I'll talk about at least kind of where things kind of went wrong too was, um, you know, the shot chucking. I mean, you're up by 20 points, and the Celtics have had this tendency, Nick, in the past of choking big leads. I'm very, very accustomed to it, like you're talking about with Boston sports, being the Goliath, and for the most part, right? I'm not going to sit here and not say I'm not fucking spoiled, because I am. It's just the bottom line here. So I'll say that, but I've also seen some gut punch here too. So I'm not going to sit back and say I've just seen countless winning, because you have to take the losing on the other side of things. But just you're at your home, right? Being up 20 points, and I was feeling good really at that part of the third quarter. The Celtics, though, in the third quarters in the past, though, have had a tendency specifically to let their foot off the gas. And what the problem that I saw, especially after the game, was the Celtics in the 20 shot attempts in the third quarter shot 19 of 20 from three. That cannot happen. Simple as that. You cannot go 19 of 20 of your shot attempts from three, and that's a coaching problem. The fact is, Karl-Anthony Towns was in early foul trouble. Jalen Brunson was early on in foul trouble. And what did you do? You did not attack those specific matchups and get them specifically into the foul trouble. Instead, what the Knicks did, and give them a lot of credit to the Knicks. So listen, I'm crediting you obviously for your guys' comeback. That was an incredible comeback for the Knicks. But I will say, for my side of things, Joe Mazzulla was the massive biggest reason why we lost this game. And I said this specifically on an Empty the Bench clip that you guys can take a look at. I understand it's only the first game, and I might be overreacting a little bit. But if somehow, some way, right, the New York Knicks beat the Celtics in this series, because it could happen. We've seen crazy things. I mean, shit. I saw the Boston Bruins, a historical type of team in the regular season. I thought they were going to go all the way to the cup. They lose in the first round after being up 3-1. So anything is possible. That's why sports is the best, right?
We've seen the 73-win Golden State Warriors blow a 3-1 lead.
07 Giants upsetting my Patriots that were undefeated.
Yeah.
Sports are always, and of course we'll talk about the other matchups going on. Who would expected OKC to lose right after we lost? But I think pretty much right when we got up to 20 points, I think that we're kind of looking at it, be like, yeah, the Knicks, they're not a great outside shooting team, which is going to be kind of going through the motions. And the fact that I saw that stat, 19 of your 20 shot attempts specifically in the third quarter from three, no wonder why the Knicks came back, because specifically you missed 45 threes. I understand specifically the Celtics are a very volume heavy type of 3-point shooting team, but eventually you got to cut those in half. You got to be able to attack the rim specifically when you have that. And Jaylen Brown after the game said, partly one of the reasons why they lost was, hey, maybe when we have a big lead, we should start attacking the basket more. Yeah, no shit. No freaking shit, man. Like, now, of course, you want to say it. And I think that's one of the things about the Celtics, though, I will give credit for. And I do feel good about them coming into tomorrow. I knock on wood, hopefully they respond, is they'll learn from this, right? A team like the Celtics with all this talent in the world, I think that they learn from this. I think one of the another underlying things to look out for right now is what's going on with Kristaps Porzingis, because the Celtics, with all of 45 missed threes that they had, Kristaps Porzingis, when he left that game, there was no post game that the Celtics were using whatsoever. I thought the Celtics were able to attack a lot more in the paint. They never did. So I give a lot of credit to you, Nick, in terms of the Knicks, in terms of what they did specifically. Great win. You had to steal a game. And I had the Celtics in this series going in 6 games. I told you and Nick Morgeson on the stream last night, I said, I think that the Celtics have a troll game, and I think that Jalen Brunson has a game that he takes over. So I had the Celtics troll game in game 3 or 4. Well, it happened to be in game 1. So we'll have to see specifically what happens in game 2. But I will say this, I think this is a learning lesson for the team. I think that they respond from it. But, just there's really nothing else you can say. But you got to just move on.
Well, the thing is, Celtics troll games, I don't know what you were thinking. Celtics troll games are always at home.
Yes.
Usually,
But
that's when the troll games usually are. It's not really much of a troll game it's not even that much of a troll game if the Knicks win at the Garden, their
right.
own Garden, not the Boston.
But
But like,
they've had some troll games on the road. But you are right. Most of their troll games that they have are typically in front of their home fans, which for some reason I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, I just hope you kind of agree in terms of my vantage point of the Celtics shooting 19 of 20 of your shot attempts from three in the third quarter is a massive reason why the Knicks came back. It just has to be because they just kept shooting and shooting and shooting from behind the arc. And I was kind of like this the whole entire time. I'm like, this is not good because they're not adjusting. Missoula never adjusted, and he's been this type of way. And then he said after the game, Nick, he said, I like the looks that we had. Seriously? Really? I saw a ton of specifically of great contested shots that you had specifically from three. You could have attacked them. You could have gotten Carl-Anthony Towns at least in foul trouble. You never did after having the third foul.
well,
There's a lot of things that the Celtics need to learn from because this was just from the end of the third quarter to the fourth quarter and overtime, the Knicks were far better the better team.
Yeah. I mean, and also, like we mentioned, like the Knicks were kind of playing, at least in the first half, with a hand behind their back, which is that they had Towns that only played. I mean, this was a game that included overtime. Towns only played 31 minutes the whole game because in the first half, he didn't get a lot of playing time because he got into early foul trouble. And that obviously just gets the game off to a bad start. And most Knick fans were thinking, all right, maybe game two, maybe we'll have a chance in game two to take this game. Like that's how bad it was in the first half. And because of that, Mitchell Robinson ended up getting a lot more playing time.
You talked about it too, about Mitchell Robinson in terms of he needs to play more, right? And you saw what happened. He played a lot more.
Wait, you're arguing that Mitchell Robinson should play more?
Yeah, well, look, he played. He was part when Cal was on the bench. He was partly of that comeback you guys had.
Yeah, partly. I wouldn't say it was because of him.
No, I'm not saying because, but I do think that he brought some type of energy, and I do think that there was an effect to him having Mitchell Robinson play a little bit better because of the rebounding component and other stuff. But I didn't think it was just because of him. I think it was more of a full team.
Mitchell Robinson only got as much playing time as he did because of the issues with Towns. And it was more in the first half than in the second half because Towns wasn't playing as much in the first half. So if anything, I don't think the Knicks looked very good with Robinson. I mean, look, a player like Mitchell Robinson has its place, but a player like Robinson is mostly phased out, which is that like he is a very classic center who can't shoot foul shots and can't shoot from the outside at all. Not even just can't shoot threes, can't hit jump shots. So has a very specific skill set, is actually, I think statistically, a worse foul shooter than Shaq was. And I mean, look, watching Mitchell Robinson shoot foul shots is like when we used to watch pitchers hit. Like that's really what it looks like. It's one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. And no, I draw the opposite conclusion about Mitchell Robinson, even though like I may have been saying I wanted to see Mitchell Robinson get more playing time because he was getting very little playing time previously. But now I see why he's not getting a lot of playing time, which is that he can be such a liability on offense. Just from the fact that you can so easily hack him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that he was more of a based defensive guy, right? And they even played some of Achua in the game as well, too. I mean, he didn't really play for that much, but I mean, you're right. I think that Robinson's more a defensive type of guy. I just think that his limitations offensively, I think, is partly a reason why he just doesn't play as much as he probably should be.
Yeah, I mean, like that's his problem. But like the point is, you say as much as he should. I mean, more as much as he otherwise would. And that type of play, it's like if you're going to be that type of center, like the Dwight Howard type of center or a Shaq type of center, where you just reside, you reside in the low post and you don't hit jump shots and you can't shoot foul shots. I mean, like you have to be so dominant and so good. Like Shaq was the most dominant player in the NBA for a little bit, despite those problems. Dwight Howard was one of the best players in the NBA for at least a certain period of time and is a Hall of Famer. So those types of guys can play a lot because they're just so good in spite of their limitations. And this was also in a different era of the NBA. Mitchell Robinson's playing in today's era of the NBA where everybody shoots threes. And there's a whole trend of hack-a-shack, of just hacking guys because they can't shoot, just get guys fouling him because he can't shoot foul shots. And the Celtics did that and it worked. But like Mitchell Robinson is not Dwight Howard or Shaq. He's not in the same stratosphere as them. No. So it's not even like Mitchell Robinson brings something that they brought. It's like, now I'm not denying that there are plus sides to playing Mitchell Robinson at the 5 compared to Towns, which is that Mitchell Robinson's a better defensive player than Towns. Towns is not a great defensive player for a big man. But just overall, just when you look at the offensive side, Towns is just so much better than Robinson that I definitely rather have Towns than Robinson playing the 5, even though Towns is probably better as a 4 than as a 5. But yeah, Robinson was honestly a little bit of a liability. And you were talking about the 63s that they attempted. I was perplexed by the Celtics strategy. I was very perplexed, and I agree with you. It has a lot to do with coaching. I mean, it has a lot to do with coaching. Like coach, and now I'm not saying it's his fault that they weren't hitting the shots. I mean, I guess it's one thing if they were hitting the shots, and then it wouldn't have mattered. But But the Knicks and Celtics, the Knicks attempted far fewer attempts from three-point range and hit more shots. The Knicks went 17 for 37 compared to the Celtics 15 for 60.
No, I agree too.
That's unbelievable. Like that's so unbelievably different. And the Celtics were playing. They were almost playing like a team like the Golden State Warriors or something. It was like you would think that they were playing that type of game. And they were also up 20 and playing as if they were down 20 from the strategy, which is that it almost seemed like they were desperately trying to hit threes, almost like they were trying to run up the score on the Knicks. Yeah. And the problem is they weren't hitting them. Now, you were talking about how they were bad shots. And to some extent, a lot of them were bad shots. Some of them were bad shots for sure. Some of them were actually good shots, but they weren't hitting them.
No, I agree.
Even the ones that were good shots, they didn't have to take them. They could have just played. They could have just tried taking the air out of the ball a little bit, given that they were up 20 and didn't want to blow the game. They could have done that too.
Yeah, no, they had a lot of the open ones that they had were a lot of the ones off of Knicks misses. And I remember there was one of them that drove me nuts. It was when you guys cut it to, I think, a 3-point. I think it was a 3-point game, and we had the ball. I think that you guys missed it. I forgot. I don't know if it was Brunson or Mikkel or something. And I don't know. Actually, I think we were up 2, possibly. I don't remember. It was definitely late in the game, specifically when we were kind of already blowing it. But I'm like, you got a free drive. I think it was Derek White, and I love Derek. But Derek White, I mean, Al Horford was in the corner specifically. Derek White could have just went right to the rim specifically and drew a foul. But no, instead he kicked it out to Al Horford, and instead of going for a shot that more likely than not he probably would have made to the rack, he went in and tried to go for a better shot in which you just weren't hitting when specifically, which made not a lot of sense at all. And another thing too is the Celtics is almost like the Jalen Brunson miss, right? We could be talking about specifically, the Knicks losing that game specifically because Jalen Brunson, of course, missed that layup right at the end, which I thought was going to break my heart right there, right? But so I'm like, okay, Mazzulla obviously was a live and die by the 3, which is a very volume type of thing for the Celtics. It obviously won us a championship last year. But eventually you have to adjust. You have to adjust specifically, and I 100% agree with you, Nick, that the Celtics, they played, and I was thinking about this at work today, they played when they were up by 20. They were playing a losing basketball formula. They were essentially not trying to win the game. They were trying to lose the game specifically. And I could just see it a mile away. I know obviously OG Anunoby had some big time shots. We could obviously talk about OG give Mikal Bridges a lot of his flowers. But if you look at it, when the Celtics were up by 20 points specifically, the Knicks they were in disarray in that, at least in that massive run, at least during that third quarter. But I think once the Celtics was just shot chucking left and right, the Knicks had that belief of like, oh, okay, if they keep on just shooting these threes specifically at a all-time high rate and they just keep missing them, we can make a run here. Like, basketball is a game of runs, and they went from a 20-point lead to an 8-point lead going into the fourth quarter with one of the best closers in the game in Jalen Brunson. So I knew for a fact, I'm like, this is just the worst because they weren't adjusting in the fourth quarter. And then when Jalen Brunson missed that layup, I thought, okay, we have a chance now. It's almost like we have another lifeline. And maybe see if Joe Mazzulla could be like, okay, Tatum just doesn't have it from three. Jaylen Brown doesn't have it from three. But they kept on settling. They kept essentially playing the losing basketball that translated from the end of the third quarter to the fourth quarter. And I think that was one of the massive reasons why that we lost this game. However, I got to look at it and say, I felt specifically like after that game that we lost this series, which is funny enough, but it's only the first game. I just kind of have to think back and listen, like, I think it's going to be a great series. I had the Celtics in 6. But I just hope that the coaching doesn't bite us in the ass in this series because I know you like Coach Thibodeau. Oh, I don't know if you love him.
I do like Thibodeau. I like Thibodeau more than most Knick fans do. Is how I would put it.
Yeah.
He does. I think he does frustrate me sometimes, but yes, I do like Thibodeau.
But if we talk about the coaching last night in terms of who won the chess battle, it was Coach Thibodeau. He was able to at least make the adjustment specifically in this game, and I think the Knicks fans should give a ton of flowers for a lot of the shit that Coach Thibodeau does because he made a lot of great rotations in that comeback, and then in the fourth quarter he made a lot. What Mazzulla did specifically was playing losing basketball, and he made massive excuses for it. So right now, the Knicks currently, of course, are up 1-0, and they currently have the coaching 1-0 in this series. So hopefully the Celtics can learn from this, and hopefully we don't have anything like this again the rest of the series.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Thibodeau deserves a lot of credit for the way he coached, obviously. I really do. Although I think that a bigger emphasis has a lot more to do with, like, Mazzulla doing a bad job than on Thibodeau doing a good job. I mean, there was nothing about like what Thibodeau did in that game that was particularly like genius or anything like that.
No.
But like, it was just, he coached the way he normally coaches, I would say.
Right.
And so I think Thibodeau deserves some credit, but more than anything, it was really just players being clutch, which is really what had a lot to do with it. Right. I mean, Brunson, between Brunson, Anunoby, and another guy, Miles McBride, the three of them hit a whole bunch of clutch 3-point shots. And McBride doesn't normally get a ton of playing time, but he's just kind of the catch and shoot player. Right. Like Miles McBride is just there to hit some shots, a lot of them threes, and oftentimes in like crunch time situations, he can't do much else. But I mean, you want to talk about playing losing basketball. The Knicks in the first half played losing basketball. It looked like they were playing losing basketball the whole first half. And when it came to like Towns, obviously Towns getting into early foul trouble, which can just kill you. And also, but a lot of it at the end of the game was that Brunson and OG were just so clutch.
I agree.
Brunson. Now, sometimes I think that Brunson, like how clutch he is sometimes overstated because like against he was okay. He had a bunch of clutch shots against the Pistons in Game 6, which didn't feel like was a winnable game in the fourth quarter. But he also took like 16 shots. He just took a whole bunch of shots. And then some of them went in. I mean, like J.R. Smith took so many like buzzer. Like J.R. Smith has some amazing buzzer beater shots. That's because he took so many of them. Some of them were bound to go in.
They're bound, exactly.
I wouldn't say but I mean, first of all, it was amazing to me how he missed that layup at the very end of regulation, which people aren't going to talk about because they ended up winning. But it's amazing that he missed that because how many threes did he just hit in a row? Like it would have been easier if he just hit threes. But Brunson does deserve his flowers for being clutch, for hitting these clutch threes, and so does Anunoby.
Yeah, some of them were actually. I mean, I think that the Celtics losing was pretty much more on the offense than the defense. I think the overtime, the defense wasn't great. I think it was more just of overall fatigue. But some of the shots that Brunson had, I mean, I knew that Brunson, of course, had this specifically. I've just seen that so many times. Was like they would put Al Horford on him or Derek White specifically on him, and he would just step back specifically, and it was nothing but net. I mean, this is kind of something that I've seen, and the Knicks specifically, and this is one thing I want to ask you because obviously we're of course we're playing each other right now. Does this game, and I know for Knicks fans specifically, because obviously you guys 100% deserve this win, and I saw a lot of Knicks fans obviously celebrating this, and by all means, go ahead. Like shit, you went into one of the most hostile environments against the defending champs and came back from 20 points. Shit, I do the same thing, but do you think personally with this game and this overall win, when you look at the outlook kind of coming into this overall series, does this specific type of win give you confidence that this series might go a lot deeper than maybe potentially anticipated? Or do you think specifically that I'm not saying this is a kind of like a one-off, but do you think that just like it's like I thought we'd win a game or two, but it's like, all right, maybe we actually have a belief that we can maybe do this. What do you think?
I would say it does give me a lot of confidence. It definitely does. Now, it doesn't mean that that's going to happen,
Right.
but it certainly does give me confidence because not only did I not think the Knicks had much of a chance, I thought they would cover. Like I thought they would give them a little bit of trouble, but it does give me a lot of hope. It really does because, like I said before, it puts the Knicks in a really good spot, and I also saw the Knicks play in the second half a type of basketball that I haven't seen them play all season.
That's what a lot of people are saying, yeah.
Like I haven't seen them look that good at any point. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to consistently play that way.
But that's how you have
But
to
it
be.
did unlock something and show something that I didn't really think was there, which is why it gives me a lot more confidence than I previously had. And even if they end up losing game 2, which I still think will probably happen by the time the show comes out, would have already happened, but I think
so.
it'll probably happen.
Not to take away from you, but
Yeah, assuming that it does happen, okay, the Knicks are 1-1 going into playing 2 games in a row at the Garden. It doesn't mean they're going to win, but it does mean that they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
It does mean that they're in a really good spot. And after how I saw them play against the Pistons, I said that this felt like the biggest gap between a 2 and a 3 seed. Like that felt like probably the biggest gap between a 2 and a 3 seed. Well, not the biggest. I've probably seen bigger gaps, but one of the biggest gaps between the 2 seed and the 3 seed that I've ever seen. And I did say many, many times, I think the Knicks are closer to the Pistons than they are to the Celtics. And like after I saw the Knicks struggle against the Pistons, like I didn't have much hope for them against the Celtics. Not to mention, what did we hear about the entire regular season ad nauseum? The Knicks it was the Knicks record against top teams, and top teams were usually like the Cavs, the Celtics, and Oklahoma City. And maybe you could even throw the Lakers in there. They weren't good against the Lakers either. Now I know they were eliminated, but they were one of the top teams.
Yeah.
So I would say, against top teams, the Knicks were not playing very well. Now, some of that was because Brunson was injured. It wasn't 100% fair. But the Knicks did not have a good record against top teams, and that's what we kept hearing about. And to be honest, as much as I wanted to dismiss it, I mean, I didn't think it was unreasonable. Like, I didn't think it was such an unreasonable take to look at the Knicks and say, look, they're not good against these top teams. I mean, yeah, I get that on some level. like that's not crazy. And now I will say I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not super optimistic, but like I don't think the Knicks need to win this series for the season to not be a failure.
Right.
Like, I also feel that way. The Celtics are they're a more talented team and they're a deeper team. So I view it that way too. But
they're playing with house money at this point in time, and I think that I think for the Knicks, in the last couple of playoff runs, I mean, you could obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they've always been kind of more of the favored matchup before they've been eliminated. They haven't really been in a ton of series, at least in the playoffs so far, in which they're playing for like the underdog story. Like, and the best part about this too, Nick, is it's New York Boston in terms of a playoff. Like I know that obviously we lost that, but I thought about it after the game. I'm like, that was awesome. Like that we
Yeah.
got the fact of like when you have the Knicks being good and you obviously have the Celtics being a juggernaut consistently. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's good for the NBA. I think that New York Boston rivalries are good for all sports. I mean, it doesn't matter as much in the NBA because it's so superstar driven and there's other areas they can go to. But like,
Yeah.
I think if that like if you look at like the Yankees and Red Sox, if they're good at the same time, or if the Jets and Patriots are good at the same time, like
Yeah.
rivalries between New York and Boston are usually good for sports.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I would put it. And I guess in a way, it feels to a lot of Knicks fans, it feels a whole lot better because it was against the Celtics.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Knicks fans, depending on your age, I would say maybe older Knicks fans probably hate the Celtics a lot more than younger Knicks fans do.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say they're probably the Knicks' biggest rival. I would say between it's not Yankees Red Sox, but it certainly is like the Knicks' biggest rivalry, the Celtics. So I guess it felt a lot better. And they're also probably the favorites to come out of the East. And also, the other thing, though, is it also just shows the Knicks have been very good situationally. And I'm not saying like that. Now, part of the reason that's the reason the Knicks beat the Pistons because the Knicks did not necessarily look like a better team than the Pistons throughout the series. They were just better situationally, and it wasn't even so much that the Knicks were so good situationally, but more that the Pistons were so bad situationally. Whereas in this case, it was a little bit of both: the Celtics being uncharacteristically bad situationally, and the Knicks being very good situationally, and unlocking something that we didn't really know that they had. In some type of way. Like we didn't think we would be able to play the basketball that we played in the first half and then be able to come back from a 20-point deficit in the middle of the third quarter when the game felt over. I mean, we did know we had some of that. Like we did know Brunson could hit Brunson and Anunoby could hit a whole bunch of clutch threes.
Yeah.
But I will say that game, especially in the first half for the Knicks, did not go according to plan. It really didn't. And a whole bunch of things that could have went wrong did go wrong for the Knicks. Like I said, Towns getting into foul trouble. And overall, Towns didn't play that good of a game, I would say. Like he scored 14 points on 13 shots. He got a whole bunch of rebounds and things like that. So he did do that. But he didn't play great. It's not like he hit a whole bunch of like clutch shots like he's done against the Pistons.
Yeah, he wasn't like overtaking that game to a fact of like he was the guy that beat us.
No, and Brunson was good, in the fourth quarter. He wasn't great the whole game. And I mean, by the way, and like I said, the foul trouble and all that, and Mitchell Robinson getting hacked. Like, yeah, the Knicks came back and won. But it's not like they played winning basketball the whole game. And a whole bunch of things that could have gone wrong for the Knicks that you could have imagined did go wrong. So I guess that's another reason for why I felt good about this win. Because the Knicks didn't even play that well for the whole game. They just played really well in the third and fourth quarter, parts of the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, and hit a whole bunch of good shots. I mean, Bridges, we didn't even talk about Bridges. Bridges was terrible for most of that game, outside of that three-point shot he hit at the very end.
Yeah.
Like Bridges was not very good for most of that game. I mean,
but the amount of times that he was good was when it mattered most. He made a clutch shot in the corner, being up by 3, and of course he had 3 seconds. I mean, it's kind of a catch and shoot. It's a really tough thing, but like, it's so crazy too. Of like the Knicks stole this game, right? But the final play was by a steal. So like, legitimately and figuratively, the Knicks stole the game. After being down 20 points, and it was Mikal Bridges out of all people that I think a lot of Knicks fans are very, like we talked about, cautiously optimistic about in terms of like consistency because of the first round picks, the 5 and stuff, and everything about that. But But yeah, before we move on, what do you think about game 2 now? Of course, it was an incredible win for you guys. But do you think specifically that it's going to be kind of a similar type of game where there's just going to be a lot of runs, or do you think that the Celtics, with their volume of threes after kind of a really really tough one the other night, I think are just going to be hitting them like crazy, and we might have a blowout specifically that we may not be able to come back from.
Yeah, well, let me just respond to what you said about Bridges. You're right.
Mhm.
He was good when it mattered the most in terms of hitting that clutch three at the end of the game. When it came to hitting that clutch three, he also went 3 for 13 from the field. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's true that Bridges is often hits that one shot that we need him to hit at the end of the game. That is true, and he deserves some credit for that. It's also true that if he had hit maybe one or two of the mid-range shots earlier in the game, we wouldn't need him to hit that shot.
Mm.
So I do see it that way too. Overall, it's not like he didn't overall he didn't like his game, but he scored 8 points on 13 shots. Like that just isn't good at all. I mean, and the only reason we even have Bridges is to hit these mid-range shots and these threes in transition. Like that's why we have Bridges, and he's not doing it consistently.
Mhm.
So yeah, give him his flowers for hitting that 3-point shot at the end of the game, but it's like, all right, well, maybe if you had hit maybe one or two of those shots earlier, we wouldn't have needed you to hit that shot. So I do
Yeah.
got to see it that way too. In terms of game 2, I don't think it'll be the same. First of all, I don't think there's any way the Celtics will be as cold from 3 as they were. I also don't think it's very likely that Towns is going to get into the foul trouble like he did in the first half, or that Mitchell Robinson is going to be seeing as much playing time as he did, and that they're going to be able to hack him as much. I just think the game is going to be different. I could see Anunoby and Brunson hitting a whole bunch of clutch threes. I could see that happening, but because that's happened many times before. But no, I don't think it's going to be the same game. I think it'll be substantially different, and I think Joe
Mhm.
Mazzulla will probably do a better job of stuff than he
He
did. Like
has to.
there is no way the Celtics are going to shoot 25% from 3. I mean, Jaylen Brown went 1 for 10 from 3. Like
And
he
Jason
kept.
Tatum wasn't great either.
What's that?
Tatum wasn't good for a lot of that second half. He just kept on shot chugging from 3, and I thought that Jason had couple matchups. So
Yeah.
as great of a win that the Knicks had, there was a couple times that I'm like, attack the basket, because I could be sitting here with you talking right now of like, well, it's one thing, right? If they weren't shooting 19 of 20 of their shot attempts from 3 in the third quarter, but below the 20-point lead, I think that it's what it is, right? You tried, you went to the rim and you attacked. But that's the frustrating part. When I saw that tweet specifically from Sean Grandy, shout out to Grandy, he's one of the voices of the Celtics, and I saw that and I said, excuse me? 19 of 20 of your shots are from 3 in the third quarter, and I understand you're a 3-point shooting team. That just simply can't happen.
Yeah. I mean, look, it would be one thing if they were going in. And like I said, some of those shots were good shots that just weren't hitting, and that
Right.
happens. Some of
Yeah.
them were not good shots. But when Jaylen Brown went 1 for 10. So at some point, you probably should have stopped shooting threes.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, unless you really need to shoot a 3, he probably should have just
They
stopped.
never adjusted. The players and the coaching never adjusted. And I think that having an angry Celtics team, I think, should worry Knicks fans specifically, because they know for a fact that the fact that we had 45 missed threes and lost by 3, I think is definitely something I can at least have a silver lining of, like, okay, we lost the game, we choked a 20-point lead, but we were still in the game at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the crazy part of it. So there was, as frustrating as it was for my side of things, that there was some things I can look at, Bill. I'm like, all right, that's game 1. We're past it. Just got to regroup, and we'll should be okay.
Yeah, and I'll also say the Knicks also left a whole lot of points on the table with their foul shots. I mean, we didn't even talk about that, especially in the first half. I mean, the Knicks went 17. The Knicks went 17 for 31 from the foul line. I mean, that's leaving a whole bunch of points on the table, but it didn't hurt them nearly as badly as it hurt the Celtics to shoot from 3 as terribly as they did. I just don't think it hurt them nearly as badly. And by the way, I don't think either of those things are going to happen in game 2. I don't think the Knicks are going to be that bad from the foul line. I don't think Towns is going to get into early foul trouble like he did. I don't think the Celtics are going to shoot that terribly from 3. There's no way Jaylen Brown is going to go 1 for 10 from 3 again. But, Tatum, you're right. Tatum was not good either. Right? I mean, like, he scored 23 points on 23 shots. He missed a whole lot of just mid-range shots that he should have been able to make. And I don't really see that happening again either. So I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that went wrong on both sides that I don't think will go wrong again in game 2. But I don't expect the Knicks to win game 2. The Boston's actually favored by 10.5. I actually probably would take the Knicks to cover that game, but that's a really big spread. I don't think they're going to win. Moving the goalposts is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, rubbing your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. I do want to talk about this other series. Nuggets steal game 1 on the road in a very similar fashion against Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
I would say the West, as outside of this game, and maybe the Pacers and the Cavs game, I think the West has been the West is so much more interesting than the East, is how I would put it.
I agree.
I think the West is just more interesting. Oklahoma City had a better won 68 games in the regular season. They're probably a more talented team than Denver is, but Denver has Jokic and Jamal Murray, and they've won. I mean, Jokic is one of the best players of all time. SGA is one of the best players right now. I mean, Jokic is also one of the best players right now, but also one of the best players of all time, best player in the world right now. So I would say I still think the Nuggets have a real chance. I would have said that they had it even before stealing this game on the road in game 1. I still would have said the Nuggets have a pretty good shot at winning this series.
Yeah, who would have thought, Nick? Right, that all the top seeds at home will lose their first game because it's sports, right? OKC, Boston, and Cleveland, right? Yeah. We'll see what happens tonight with Cleveland. They're down with some injuries right now, so heck, they could go down 0-2 possibly. I don't know, but in terms of this game, I did see some of this, and you talk about just a great night of hoops, right? Knicks Celtics went down to the wire. This game went right down the wire. OKC, I think in the third quarter, it obviously wasn't as big of a lead that the Celtics blew, but I think it was like a 19-6 run that Denver went on, and obviously Chet missing those 2 free throws right at the end. I mean, Denver was going to have a chance to tie the game regardless, but instead of going for potentially for the tie, you have a chance to go for the win. And Aaron Gordon made an absolute phenomenal shot with very little time for OKC to get a chance to go ahead and tie I think tie the game. I don't remember what the final was, but just Denver just played tough. They right at within the last 4 minutes. Jokic is just phenomenal. I mean, he's a guy specifically that you don't get to see many other guys kind of do what he does. I've gotten the chance to see him play live. It's absolutely surreal. So I just kind of know it, just the way that he passes, the way he scores. It just amazes you just as much specifically in terms of how you talk about him. So the Nuggets definitely are very capable of winning this series. I will say, between Knicks and Boston and Denver and OKC, I don't think that there is much as a gap when you talk about talent between this series compared to the Boston-New York series. So I think that, Denver, taking the first game, as I say, Nick, specifically, and I was thinking about this also when I was at work earlier today, is The series
You're thinking about things a lot at work.
Yeah. Well, today it was all about today it was all about basketball to me, specifically because the Celtics just broke me after that first game. But I was thinking that when the away team obviously steals that first game on the opponent's court, right? That's when you know the series starts, because it's kind of the overall baseline of kind of how it goes. So, yeah, I mean, Denver went in and they had a big one, and like you talked about with the Knicks having home court advantage now after being up 1-0, Denver now has a possibility of making this a pretty good series, in which I actually had a feeling for. I had OKC in 6, but that's a big one for Denver. They were able to come back and they took it.
Yeah, and by the way, that game felt kind of over too. It was very similar, and it was very similar to the Celtics Knicks game. And Jokic put up 42 points and 22 rebounds. I mean, he is one of the 5 best big men ever. Probably one of the 5 best centers ever at this point, I would say. I mean, arguably one of the greatest, probably a top 20 player all time already, I would say. I haven't seen somebody 7 feet tall this overall skilled. Like I haven't seen anybody, a center who has that much overall skill in the game. And yeah, and they all credit to the Nuggets. And look, I think that this could be a situation where Oklahoma City is just, even though it's just the better regular season team, but just not as well built for the postseason as Denver. But I will say Denver is also the team that, like, I mean, by the way, this is the same team that just got taken to 7 games by the Clippers. And of course, Harden scored 7 points in game 7.
Harden, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Harden and dropping in game 7s.
Yeah, who could have seen that coming? So, of course, Harden just hardened. I mean, it wasn't just James Harden. They got
they were just off. Simple.
They got totally killed. I could see Denver coming out of the West. The last time I picked a team to come out of the West, they got eliminated. So who really knows? But a lot of times it could just be the experience and the leadership. And by the way, I did say that the Nuggets were a team that were like in disarray, in a sense. They were like a team in disarray, firing their head coach right before the start of the playoffs. But I don't think the biggest deal, because they have a guy like Jokic, I guess they can get away with that a little bit better than most teams can. Most teams that do that don't pan out very well. And I don't think they're winning because they fired Mike Malone. Probably more of that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
They're winning much more because of Jokic than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, you take Jokic off of that court. I mean, they're still a solid team, but you could put Jokic on the court and you're closer to elite because just his overall. I mean, the amount of matchups that guy creates. I mean, he is 7'2", 7'1", or whatever. But you put him down, you put the ball down the post. The guy's passing ability is absolutely surreal with a bunch of shooters kind of around. He could hook shot you. He could obviously back you down. From little midi fadeaway, whatever, and of course pick and pop from 3. It's just a matchup nightmare. And like you talked about with OKC, I agree. Yeah. I mean, they're obviously a very, very good team for the regular season, but for instance, Houston, who just got bounced. I mean, Houston obviously doesn't have the firepower yet, but they were the 2 seed this year in the West, and I think they were more of the regular season built. And when you talk about the playoffs, they just didn't have enough outside shooting. And you need to have that specifically to be successful in the playoffs, is you need to be able to have that balance. And a team like that was a higher seed, were able to, win partly because of the defense that they had, but it bit them in the ass when it mattered most because they faced a team with experience and they didn't have enough outside shooting. So OKC, I do think I have them going to the finals against the Celtics, actually. So that's my predictions for those that are watching. But OKC specifically definitely could get bounced, and they definitely could get bounced in this series because Denver does have that playoff experience, and they have guys that have been there, done that, including Jokic and Jamal Murray.
I now like Denver to come out of the West.
Okay.
I think Denver. I think Denver is not necessarily the best team overall, but they just have the experience. I think it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see maybe Minnesota or look. I think it could go either way. I don't know. Oklahoma City is now like the last team that I expect to come out of the West in a weird way.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they can't. I'm not saying they're not a great team. I think all these teams are really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think the West just looks like a powerhouse right now. I do want to talk about the Warriors. They took Game 7 against the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Green
Oh my God.
didn't even show up in this game. To me, overall, I mean, by the way, in this game, Steph Curry scored 3 points in the first half. So similar to like what happened with the Knicks. So much went wrong for the Warriors in the first half. Like, imagine if I had told you the Warriors scored Steph Curry struggled in the first half and only scored 3 points. You'd be like, oh, wow, this game must really be this game must have, that sounds like a huge advantage for Houston, which it was, obviously. But, to me, it almost seems like Steph Curry was able to make himself useful on the court, even when he wasn't hitting his threes. And also, a whole lot of credit should go to Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield played an amazing game. Buddy Hield played an amazing game, especially in the first half. He went 9 for 11 from the 3-point line. That's unbelievable.
And 6 of them were from 3, and that's actually a record specifically. I think there was a stat out saying there's never been a guy to hit 6 3-pointers in the first half.
Yeah.
He's up there with record books, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, who would have thought Buddy Hield it would have been Buddy Hield. I mean, Steph did not shoot great until the end of the game.
Yeah.
He didn't shoot great till the end of the game, which, by the way, I think I picked him to hit 5 threes in my unnecessary wager. So I think my unnecessary wager maybe would have hit. I could be wrong about that, but maybe I think it would have hit if Steph Curry just hit 1 more 3 in that game.
Yeah, he had 3 or 4.
He hit 4.
Yeah.
But Buddy Hield put up 33 points. He put up 33 points.
Amazing.
And Jimmy Butler put up 20 points. So to me, I just think that a lot of this was just even though the Rockets have a lot of really good young players, I just think a lot of this game was just experience. You had Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. These guys have just been in this situation. I mean, there's a lot of young players in the Warriors too, but they do have that leadership that the Rockets just don't have. And a guy I mean, I guess that they do have some older players on the Rockets too. But it's like Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. I mean, Fred VanVleet's a veteran.
Steven Adams.
Yeah. So you have a little bit of that, but just not. The team is built mostly made up of. It's mostly a younger team.
Yeah.
It's almost like what Oklahoma City was, a year or 2 ago.
That's a good comp. Yeah.
I mean, really good in the regular season. Won 52 games. They're just not totally there for the postseason. Is how I would put it.
I agree. Yeah. And not you talk about experience too. The coach, Steve Kerr. I mean, Steve Kerr has won multiple NBA finals. That's when people were asking me in terms of Game 7 who was going to win the series. I just said, well, actually, I turned with my friends at the Sox game. Actually, he said, "Who do you have winning this game?" And I said, "I'm going Golden State because of their experience." And that's kind of what happened. I mean, it was kind of like a little bit of a dogfight, I'd say, for the first couple of quarters. There really wasn't a whole lot of rhythm, really. But then at the end of the fourth quarter, Steph really started to get hot. He was still really impactful for the first couple of quarters. Obviously, Buddy Hield was, firing from the 3-point range in the first half, and that was one of the big reasons why the Warriors were still within this game. But yeah, their experience, when you have a guy like Steph Curry that has won and been there, done that with a head coach like Steve Kerr and a guy like Draymond Green, you can hate him all you want specifically, but the guy does have the experience. And And Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's had experience too. So they have so many guys specifically compared to a Ime Udoka type of team. And I like Ime overall, but they're more of a defensive minded type of team that wants to have you grind it out and not shoot. They're not a good outside shooting type of team. Very Orlando Magic-y per se. That's how I call them specifically, the Western Orlando Magic, which is going to grind you out. They're going to, bite you right into the end.
Except they're much better than Orlando.
That too, but I'm just talking about the physical play style. The way that they play is very Orlando Magic-y. But yeah, Golden State, I just think they have the experience, and I think that starting tonight for them against Minnesota, I think that it's a 7-6 matchup. Golden State definitely they're a team. Golden State was a 500 type of team, I think, for a lot of that second half. Really, once they got Jimmy Butler, they've just been really taking off, and it's been really impressive for them because I think a lot of people were expecting the Warriors to be kind of crashing down this year, and it hasn't worked out. So they're still riding high.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the Pacers. They beat the Cavs in Game 1. So much went on in the NBA playoffs. But the NBA playoffs this year have just been amazing.
I have.
And the NBA, but so much has gone on that we're hardly even going to talk about this. The Pacers, I would have said, and I said this on the stream, I think, I would have said maybe a month ago the Knicks are the 5th best team in the NBA. Now I would say the Knicks are probably the 10th best team in the NBA. Now, I'm including teams that were eliminated, just teams in general that I think would have beaten them. I would say the Oklahoma City, the Warriors, and by the way, not any particular order, Denver, Minnesota, the Lakers. Who else am I missing in the Western Conference?
What teams you mentioned?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Oklahoma City. I'm just going to go in order. Oklahoma City, Lakers, Denver.
Houston?
No. The Timberwolves. The Warriors.
Clippers.
The Clippers. That's 6. Then obviously the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Pacers. That's 9 teams that I think are better than the Knicks. Is how I would put it. Despite how good the Knicks played in Game 1, I think all those teams right now I understand the Knicks had a better record than some of these teams, but right now those teams I think would beat the Knicks if they played in a 7-game series. And the Pacers offense is just like the Knicks offense does not always look good. I mean, sure, there's a whole bunch of like clutch shots that Brunson or Anunoby might hit and things like that. But it doesn't look smooth. It's sort of like the Knicks digging themselves out of a hole so often, including against teams like not just against the Celtics, but against teams like the Pistons and things like that. So you see that a whole lot with the Knicks offense. The Pacers offense seems to run so smoothly to me. I mean, they have a whole bunch of guys that can just consistently hit, not just shoot threes, but actually hit threes. I've never seen a team get so many good open looks. I mean, they shot 53%. They went 19 for 36 from 3 against Cleveland. I mean, any team that does that is just almost unbeatable. And now part of the reason that Cleveland lost was they didn't have Darius Garland,
and he's out tonight again.
He's out again. Yeah.
Him, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter. So they not only Garland's out again, but they're now without 2 of their other key contributors. So Cleveland right now, for a team specifically that a lot of people outside of Boston were maybe thinking it was going to go to the NBA Finals, their injuries are catching up to them. But I agree with you with Indiana. They're an absolutely dangerous team. And I tell people all the time that in terms of the toughest team that we faced in our run to the championship last year, it was Indiana. And people will say, well, you swept them. Well, if you actually clearly watch the game specifically, they absolutely were a bitch to play against. They have guys specifically like Halliburton, Siakam, Turner. They play also at a very, very fast pace if you actually watch them specifically. So they play at a fast pace. They hit outside shots. And their defense also wasn't bad either. Yeah, I could definitely see the Pacers winning the series. I really do, especially now with Cleveland. I had Cleveland win the series, but if they're banged up and their second best starter specifically has a toe problem going on where heck, even if he comes back, he might not be 100%. If Indiana wins this game tonight specifically, I mean, they're in massive control, especially if Cleveland is banged up. So, yeah, just Indiana is definitely one of those teams that is going to give a lot of teams fits. And I already saw it firsthand from last year.
Yeah, we were talking about the Knicks being I was talking about the Knicks being in a really good spot, but it actually is nothing compared to Indiana because of the key injuries that the Cavs have in game 2. So the Pacers could end up going 2-0 on the road and then going into the 2 games at Indiana.
Yeah.
That's as good of a spot as you can be in.
Let alone going into a tough environment too. Cleveland in the playoffs is one of the most underrated environments, I think, in the game. So to go in there, I mean, they at least took one, like a lot of the road underdog type of teams. But heck, if you essentially see Cleveland right now, and you have Hunter, you have Mobley, who's one of the best defensive players, and you have Garland, who's one of the best scorers out, you got to take advantage and win that game if you're in Indiana, and I think they have a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it's no guarantee, but they're without their point guard, they're without Evan Mobley. That's going to hurt. That's going to be a huge advantage for Indiana.
100%.
And yeah, I guess it's just making, and they're playing again, tonight. So by the time this show comes out, it'll be kind of moot. But also, the Warriors actually. Just one more thing: the Warriors are. I mean, we're not going to be able to talk about the Lakers and Timberwolves. I'll just save that for the Lakers being eliminated. I'll just save that for the leftovers. Warriors, Minnesota is actually favored by 6.5. They're playing tonight.
Yep.
I like Minnesota to win.
I like them to cover too.
I like them to win. I don't know if I've just, you know what? I would probably take them to cover. I think
because Golden State just came off of a game 7, and a lot of times when you're off of a game 7, you typically are rusty. So I think with Minnesota, they have
the opposite, tired, if anything.
Well, rusty, but also same thing, tired specifically. They're probably not going to be playing at their best specifically. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I don't really know anything really about it specifically, but yeah, I think for 6.5, I like Minnesota to cover that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Minnesota is probably the best 6 seed I've ever seen. Probably the best like the best 6 seed I've ever seen. The West is, I mean, the West was always a strong conference, but it's like so much stronger now than it was. Like it really is now. All right, that's our show this week. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Ben Kruse. This was Moving the Goalpost. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart. You can follow Ben at Ben Kruse144. You can follow us across social media at MTGP ETB, and follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. I'll be back next week.